Good evening, Crime Talk aficionados. This is Scott Reich from Crime Talk, and thank you for tuning in. This is our weekly live edition, and we took us a little while to get out of YouTube detention, but we're back, and through modern technology, we are streaming not only on YouTube, but we are also streaming on Facebook. And for those of you who may have arrived here because it popped up as somebody who's going live. My name is Scott Wright. All right. So I think we're back. We should be streaming here both on YouTube as well as Facebook. And for those of you who are new to Crime Talk, my name is Scott Reich. I am a practicing criminal defense attorney here in the state of Colorado. And we try to explain the law for cases that are obviously of public interest, and oftentimes cold cases where people have lost interest in the case, so to speak, but we try to bring that back, and we try to give it to you as unbiased as possible. You know, everybody has biases when they're talking. We try to let you know exactly where we're coming from. Frankly, we like to give you both sides of it and say, hey, this is what the prosecution is going to be doing, and this is what the defense is going to be doing as well, and just kind of laying it out there for everybody to make their own decision. Nobody's telling everybody what they have to believe or conclude. Let's look at the facts. Let's try to be intellectually honest. And on top of that, sometimes we're going to agree to disagree. But that doesn't mean that we cannot do it respectfully. And, nobody needs to call anybody names. Maybe it's just somebody like myself who is an attorney. You don't get to yell in the courtroom and call people names. You have to do it respectfully, and you have to basically wait your turn to talk, and then the other side talks, and then the judge rules, and sometimes you win and sometimes you don't. But the reality of it is, at the end of the day, we can agree to disagree. We can still be friends. And, that's really what it amounts to. We can do that. So obviously, the cases that have been in the news recently and of great interest to people have been the arrest as it relates to Chad Daybell, the husband of Lori Vallow. And he was obviously arrested last week, Monday, when the search warrant was executed on his property. And lo and behold, they found some remains of what was finally confirmed, what we already knew, but it was confirmed by the police on Saturday that those were the remains of JJ and Ty Lee. Obviously, sad situation, but I think a lot of people using their common sense figured out that it was probably not going to be the result that we were hoping for. But that being said, it's going to be an interesting case. We have, Chad Daybell. He has a preliminary hearing set on January 1st and 2nd. So they're expecting at least 2 days to present what they believe to be sufficient evidence to bind the case over to the district court on those charges. Now, clearly the question is going to be, what, if any, new charges are they going to file on Chad Daybell or Lori Vallow before the preliminary hearing? For obvious reasons, they are the prime suspects. They're the people that were with these children, as far as we know, the last time they were seen. And one could reasonably conclude, but what we reasonably can conclude and what our gut tells us is sometimes more difficult to actually prove with real evidence, eyewitness testimony, admissions by party opponents, things along those lines that you need to be able to present in court, not just saying, we know what you did with the kids. They're deceased. You were the last ones there. You did it. Good theory, but what evidence are you going to be able to prove to say that they're the ones that actually did it? We've talked about this before, and this is probably one of the most important things you have to prove in any case, and that is identity. You have to be able to prove that the person that is charged is the one that did it. It's not someone that looked like them. It's not someone using their identity, but it was actually them. Okay. Now, certainly finding the remains of two children, and when they conduct the autopsies, or what they can at least do, given the state of the remains, it certainly doesn't look good whatsoever. And there may be sufficient evidence to do that. I had a similar case where I had a client that was accused of being a leader of a religious cult. It was a doomsday theory type of thing. Some children passed away. Nobody could say, wasn't even my client's children, nobody could say how they died, when they died, under what circumstances exactly. And, the jury ultimately convicted him just because, frankly, they're like, it's two dead children. Somebody's got to go to prison. That's kind of a general rule. When there's a dead body, somebody's got to go to prison. And so, we're going to have to see how that works out. Clearly, if they had enough evidence at this point, they would have charged either one of them. But that is, going to be, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess time will tell if the police can actually come up with enough evidence to do so. And I think the most important thing that we really need to be patient for, there's lots of rumors out there floating around as to what the information was as to how the police were directed to various locations on the Daybell property, that they were able to kind of know exactly where to dig. One would think that maybe somebody that was involved, maybe somebody that assisted and now feels bad, remorse, maybe somebody that assisted and maybe is trying to cut a better deal for themselves and figuring, I'm not going down for this. There's lots of speculation. I've heard stuff that, police have heard things through the children of police officers on the case. But I can't confirm any of that, so I'm not going to speculate as to what they, what I've received. People send me lots of emails on, whether it's via YouTube or at scottreich.com. You can go to scott@scottreich.com. If you have a news tip or you have some information about a case, be more than happy to look into it. But I need to be able to, corroborate it and make sure that it's accurate, because obviously no one wants to get sued by going around spreading false rumors about anybody, just saying things. And it's easy to do on the internet, seems like, but there's still a lot of liability for that. And so we need to make sure that it's right. I literally receive emails all the time at that address where people talk about it, various cases, various theories, and I appreciate them. But it's like, just like we talk about when we are here with you on Crime Talk, what legally and competent evidence is going to be admissible to prove that? Like I said, hunches, theories. Well, the light shows this, and you can see the shadow. Yeah, that doesn't cut it. Okay. We look at it here from an attorney perspective, a legal perspective, under looking at the rules of evidence, the rules of criminal procedure, how and what evidence is going to come in, and how that, how that's going to be able to prove the case or not prove the case. Frankly, we talked about it today in the video that we put out today, and we put out a video nearly every day. We try to even do weekends sometimes, but sometimes those don't work as well. But the one today we were talking about, if I was Chad Daybell's attorney, I'd be saying, let's bring it on. Like, oh my gosh, there's bodies found on my property. Oh my goodness. How did those get there? We need a speedy trial as quickly as possible. Hence the reason why they set July 1st and 2nd for that preliminary hearing. After the preliminary hearing, the complaint will turn into an information. And under that Idaho law that I've been researching, they'll have approximately 6 months to get him to trial. I would guess they would probably set it out about 4 months to give him a window. But that is, the type of thing where we've talked about it. I've done a lot of homicide cases over the years. And frankly, we've had a pretty good run in. We've had, I think, 7 not guilties on first-degree murder, and that's not including walking, or getting a lesser charge. This is not guilty, or charges are dismissed like the morning of trial because they realize they can't prove their case. 7 of those. Most attorneys never get that opportunity to even get one not guilty on a first-degree murder case in their entire lifetime. And like I said, I have 7. So I'm certainly not an expert. I don't win every case. I wish I did. That would make my life a heck of a lot easier. But I'd like to think that because of that experience and doing this for some 25 years, that I can reasonably anticipate what evidence is going to come in, how it's going to be presented, why something won't be able to come in, and what is actually taking place. So that's where we are. Let me take a quick look. Now, obviously, you all subscribers here, viewers, and man, appreciate everybody tuning in. That's very, very, very humbling when you all do that, because when we started this channel almost, I guess, 2 years ago, it was in regards to the Chris Watts case. And, I put up a little YouTube channel because I was going to save videos for trips that I was going to go on, or when I was going to fly my plane. I thought it'd be cool to put some videos up. And a friend of mine said, oh, you should talk about this case. And I thought, no one's going to want to hear what I have to say. And the channel's grown. Are we live? We just lost YouTube. Okay. And anyway, so the channel's grown. We're now over 100,000 subscribers, which, in the YouTube world, that's kind of a big deal. Yeah, I think the next big deal is 1 million, which would be great if we got there overnight. So share these videos, tell your friends, have them all subscribe. All right. Get it to the point where I can stop practicing law and we can simply do this all day long. That would be a blast, but I'd probably miss the practice of law for sure. So let's talk about the cases as it relates to the Daybell matter. For some reason, I lost my live feed over here, so I can't see where the questions are coming up. Hold on one second. Bear with me. Try to get those. But then I have this over here. So let me see here. Are these all the comments from Facebook and YouTube, or just YouTube? Okay. All right. Well, we're going to try this. We'll try to do this. And I think there were a couple of what they refer to as super chats that went by. Let me see if I can go back to those and make sure I answer the questions, and we'll try to answer as many questions as possible. But if there's a super chat, we will try to do that as well. Let's see. Jen, thank you for the super chat. And Michelle, thank you as well for the super sticker. Thank you. Jen, do we know who Lori Vallow's father is, and what is their relationship? I have a diagram of the family relationship of everybody on the Lori Vallow Chad Daybell case. And unfortunately, it's sitting on my desk. And so hopefully at some point, maybe we'll take a quick recess and I can run back and get that and try to answer that question for Jen. Or hopefully maybe there are people that know the answer to that and can help share it. And hopefully we'll be able to see this. Let's see here. Maggie has a question. If Chad's children knew about this but had no involvement, can they be charged? That's an interesting question. We've talked about this in the past, all right? There is a theory of prosecution called complicity. It sounds very similar to the actual crime of conspiracy, which is a crime. Complicity is not a crime in and of itself. It is a theory of prosecution. And at the end of the case, the district attorney, or United States attorney, always submits a jury instruction, and it's called the complicity instruction. And basically it says if a defendant aided, encouraged, abet, or assisted somebody in the commission of an offense, they can be guilty just like they did it themselves. And the kind of the classic example is, I mean, if you have a conspiracy and someone's going to say you're going to conspire to go rob a bank, I say, I'm going to go get the car. And I say, Frank, the trusty producer, you go get the car and the gloves. I'll get the car. You get the gloves and the mask and whatever else we're going to need to go into the bank, the note. And we drive to the bank and everybody goes in and there's a conspiracy. There's an agreement to commit an illegal act. All right. Under a complicity theory, let's say I want to go do something bad to somebody's house so we don't get demonetized by anybody. We aren't going to shoot anything. We're going to throw rocks. So let's say I want to throw rocks at somebody's house. And I'm in, my friends come, they pick me up in my car and say, hey, you know what? I don't like that guy that was mean to me the other day. Let's drive by his house. I got something for him. And my buddies are like, oh, okay. What have you got for him? Oh, I'm going to show him, and maybe I show him my bag of rocks that I'm going to throw. And they drive by and I throw those rocks and I hit somebody, conk them on the head, and they die. All right. The driver and the passenger that were in there with me knew that I had the rocks, knew that I was going to do something, but didn't necessarily know what. But they could have said, no, we're not going by there. So they drive by and I throw the rock and, security cameras, ring doorbells, pick it up, and they come and arrest all of us. Those two, the driver and the passenger, can both be charged just as though they threw the rock themselves under a complicity theory. And they can be charged like they threw the rock themselves. I've always told clients, you're charged as the driver in this really bad thing where some sort of projectile went out the window. You might as well said, give me the gun. I'm going to take a couple of shots myself because you're being charged like you did it. And so you can be just simply there and be charged as though you were what they refer to as the principal, the primary actor in the case, even though you didn't do anything. And you can get the same punishment as the person that actually threw the rock and hit somebody on the head and caused them to be deceased. All right. So the question then going back to is, what, if anything, did the Daybell children know? If anything, if they knew what was taking place and they didn't tell anybody, then it could be potentially an accessory after the fact type of situation where you knew a crime was committed, but you assisted people in the commission of that offense by delaying or hiding evidence in the attempt to hinder or delay prosecution for somebody. That's accessory after the fact. So if it's determined that if anybody knew anything, and obviously we give everybody the presumption of innocence, but the reality of it is it depends on kind of what you knew and when did you know it. That's what it boils down to. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you for our super chats. Michelle, Jen, Riva, thank you very much. And let's see here. Take a couple. Let's see if we can get a couple of more questions here. Let's see here. I'm sorry. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for the comments. Appreciate that. I need mod if needed. Let's see here. Thank you all the people that want to be moderators. We appreciate that. Okay. Question here. What is Chad's attorney record, not guilty versus guilty? I don't know. Most attorneys don't do that. I mean, I don't know if I could tell anybody off the top of my head. When I was a young lawyer, I kept a little notebook of all the cases and the results and how they turned out. But now I don't even do that. I kind of remember the big cases, but I don't know what his attorney is. But he, unlike Means, who represents Vallow, actually does criminal defense. And I'm not throwing stones at him, but it looks like many, many years ago, he had his own issues as it related to, he had a case and he was charged. He was found not guilty of the more serious charges. And, everybody has situations in life. I'm not going to necessarily judge on that, but it's something that happened. It's there. It's facts. It's history. Has no relevance as it relates to this particular case. But he seems to be, a trial attorney. We talked, I've always said anybody can be an attorney. Anybody can go to law school, pass the bar exam, and you can, bam, you're an attorney. And then litigation, civil litigation, which I hate civil litigation. I really do. I like it in the sense that, if you're actually going to go to trial, but all the paperwork involved, we do civil litigation, but we have attorneys here that do it for me because I just simply didn't have the time to deal with all that stuff. Civil litigation is nothing but a war of attrition, but those are what you refer to as litigators. And litigators, they go back and forth and they know the rules of civil procedure where they, try to make life difficult. It's a war of attrition. Who can go the longest without having to file for bankruptcy? Bottom line. That's what civil litigation is. And then you have trial attorneys. Okay. And there aren't that many trial attorneys. In my opinion, I'd like to say that I'm a trial attorney. And, when there was no COVID thing going on, pandemic, and we actually went to trials, I would average at least 1 to 2 felony trials per month, and there's fluctuations where you go a couple months without anything or cases resolve at the last minute, but you go to trial. And unfortunately, a lot of attorneys don't go to trial anymore. And I don't know, if a lot of it is because the consequences are so high, particularly in federal court. I just got done doing a federal court case where it was a not guilty. And I was looking at a statistic the other day, literally like 98% of all cases in federal court wind up in a plea. Those that go to trial, only about 20 to 25% actually win at trial. And so we've actually did a trial, and it's one of those cases where we probably should have lost. But the United States attorneys didn't get their work done. Had they had maybe another week or two, they would have figured out what they had to do, but they didn't. They weren't able to do that, and so things worked out well for my client, and we appreciate that. My client appreciates that. Which reminds me, I think he still owes me some money. I need to follow up on that. So anyway, Scott, conflict of attorneys. Yeah, I don't see a conflict. Well, we talked about this. Now, what this is going to boil down to in the Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell case, as you may recall from the Lori Vallow hearing that was held, I think, month and a half ago or so. And at that time, Mr. Means, the attorney for them, also stated on the record that he was the attorney, he was the counsel for Chad Daybell. So obviously, if there's charges here, they're going to be prosecuted. There's a conflict. And so there still may be a potential conflict, but it's not with the new attorney. It's going to be with the conflict as it relates to Means and Vallow. What confidences does he have as it relates to his representation of Chad Daybell, where he has information that can be used against him, so to speak, for the benefit of his other client, Lori Vallow, right? I think either the court may raise that or Means or Mr. Pryor, Chad Daybell's new attorney, would be the one to actually raise that issue so that he can address it. Who knows? Maybe they're all working together, so to speak, and maybe nothing is going on. Maybe there really is no conflict. Maybe when he said, I represent him, but hadn't talked in any substance whatsoever. We may never know, just given the circumstances of this particular case. So we'll just have to see on that. Let's see, try to answer some more questions here. And thank you. Some of these, it's hard to tell. So we have this new software we're supposed to be able to stream, but I can't tell if it doesn't really flow by like it does, for example, on the, as a defense attorney, do you have to know the truth? Oh boy, let's see here. How do I go back up here? Sorry, let's see here. Okay, here's a question by Greg. I think this is always interesting. Why can the police you to stop filming when you are in public? Shouldn't that be illegal? A lot of okay. Hopefully we're back. Weird little internet hiccup. So the question was, why do police have to tell you to stop filming if they're in public? Shouldn't that be illegal? You can film whomever you want in public. No one has any expectation of privacy when they're in public. And when you go outside, you're basically fair game to be videotaped, including police officers. Now, one could maybe make the argument that if you are interfering with an investigation because you want to maybe film too closely, they could probably have you step back. But it doesn't mean that it's illegal to film. If somebody gets arrested for filming illegally, call me. We can see what we can do there. All right, let me see here. This is very confusing. Let's see here. Thank you for. Okay, do we slow that down or something? Let's see. Scott should have paid. Yeah. Kyle was more than happy, but thank you. He went off to go build houses and work with people. This is not anyone's fault. This is technology, ladies and gentlemen. It's always interesting. Literally, anytime we do a live, you actually have no idea what's going to happen, if an internet issue is going to pop up. All right, Jackie, I'm concerned of a mistrial since the case is so high profile already. It would be horrible if due process is impeded because of this. We'll just have to wait and see. I don't have any issues as it relates to a mistrial just yet. Jurors are, they're going to be there. They're going to hear the evidence. If it mistries, then that's the way the system works. If they can't decide, they can't convince all 12 jurors, that's on the prosecution. They didn't have a strong enough case to do that. Let's see here. Scott, what's the estimated cost just for Chad now? A murder trial would be big dollars, I predict, please. And public defenders after Chad spends his cash. Well, it depends on how much cash is still remaining. As you all may recall, I think he received from a life insurance policy from his wife and the deceased that he was, I think it was $340,000, maybe $350,000. You know, he didn't go big on spending on the ring. I think that was what, $40 or something on Amazon. And then he went to Hawaii, you know, probably spent a few $1,000s on the condo that they were staying in over there. Then he had to start paying for attorneys in Hawaii for Lori Vallow, and then back in Idaho, and one firm got off and the other firm got on. You know, and I would say, you know, a case like that, I mean, you're probably looking $50,000. You start talking murder charges, you know, give me $100,000 and just keep sending in money, and I'll tell you when to stop when the case is done. You know, it's going to be billed on an hourly basis because you just never know. You're going to have to hire experts. You're going to have to hire investigators. You're going to have to go back and re-interview everyone who was interviewed, and then go find people that the police didn't talk to. You know, cases like these are expensive and they're time consuming, and you have to pay for an attorney with the experience. Yes. You know, as a young attorney, you know, I remember being a young attorney. I thought, I can do this, you know, and I probably made some mistakes. You learn from everything you do. I still learn something new every time I go to court or go to a trial, particularly a trial, because it's always changing. It never stops. But what you're paying for is all those mistakes, all those experience, the hundreds of thousands of times that we've seen similar circumstances come up, to be able to know, I remember reading that case and the case opinions that came out. I know there's a case on this very issue, and oh yeah, by the way, Judge, they can't do that. Or I'm going to object and I'm going to preserve it to know how to do that. You know, we've all, attorneys have had mistakes where they wish that they had done something differently or done something better. But, you know, these cases get expensive and everyone is entitled to counsel. So if they run out of money and private counsel will no longer do it, they will get the office of the public defender. And then, since there's probably a conflict for that office to represent both people, one of them would receive a private attorney at a reduced rate to represent them. And I'm sure they would do a fine job with what they have to do. So let me take a quick recess. Can't believe we've already been talking for 40 minutes. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. You know, clearly the big news has been the Vallow, Daybell issues that have developed over the last couple of weeks. And obviously we're going live this evening, and with a few minor technical difficulties beyond anyone's control here, I think we're back. And we're going to do this probably for at least another 20 minutes or so, at least till the top of the hour. And then we're going to jump over to our Patreon page. And Patreon is, it's our Crime Talk Patreons, people that have basically paid to have limited access, and there's programs there for as little as $5, and we have some Patreons that are up to $100, and they get, you know, basically more access and able to talk with me, and hopefully quicker response on lots of things. And so if you're a Patreon member, Frank will be sending out a link that's private for everybody to go to. And so when we get done with this, we'll go right to the Patreon and talk, and basically talk about whatever you all want to talk about. It's that simple here. Let's take a look. All right. Let's see here. All right, Mandy, how did they know where the bodies were buried? I think I've covered that, but that is simply no one knows yet. You know, lots of theories out there, but we like to deal with facts and not speculation. So if somebody knows for absolute certainty and you can prove it to me, send it to me at scott@scottreich.com. And, I'll be more than happy to talk about that when it's not just a theory, when it's an actual fact. Obviously they searched that property back in January and they found nothing. So the fact that they went to a judge with a search warrant to go back to the property that they'd already searched, there had to be something pretty darn significant. And the police had to have believed that it was reliable. Same with the judge. Judges, you don't get to keep going back unless you know you have something new there. And it has to be good. If not, it's a bad search. And I'm certain that will be something that people will, in fact, do. The attorneys will challenge that search warrant because that is what has made this case. So whatever information they have, if it was some information from somebody or overheard somebody, or there was a search of a phone, anything along those lines, there will be a challenge to that affidavit. So let's take a quick recess here. We like to pay the bills. We've come a long way. I literally look at some of our original videos and I'm absolutely embarrassed by the quality or the lack thereof of our productions. They've come a long way. We have actual professionals that help us do this now. We have much better equipment. Hopefully people don't complain about the sound quality anymore. We've tried to resolve that, particularly with this bad boy right here. Sometimes it probably picks things up and sometimes people say, "Why are you smacking your lips, Scott?" Probably because my mouth is dry because I've been talking all day. But we have a sponsor, all right? And it's People Finder. And I'm telling you, we do background checks all the time in the legal business. What do police do? First thing they do when they arrest somebody, or they think they're going to arrest somebody, or they sit in their car and they type on their little keyboard in the car. They run a wants and warrants, right? That is nothing more than a background search. Well, now you all can have the same information that these government agencies are going to use. And for a small subscription fee, if you go to crimetalksearch.com, type that in, once you sign up for the subscription, no risk offer, free trial, or not free trial, but a no risk trial offer, cancel anytime. You can do unlimited searches. You can search anonymously of people that you'd like to. You get to search literally billions of public records around the United States. If you're out of the country, don't think you can sign up for this. But if you're in the United States, you can search all of these records. It would take you weeks, if not months, to search all of these records by simply calling up or searching on the internet to run in these particular databases. This program, this subscription does that for you in literally a matter of minutes, and you get a report. You can get criminal background records, bankruptcies, sex offender records, property searches. You can search property to see if people are avoiding, judgments and things of that nature. You can obviously search yourself to make sure that everything is going well for you. No one's using your identity, things of that nature, things that shouldn't be there. So go to crimetalksearch.com. I appreciate if you do so. No one's forcing you to do so, but you will not be disappointed. You will be satisfied with this. And if you're not, you can cancel anytime. So crimetalksearch.com. Go ahead and sign up for that, please. Let's get back to some of our questions. Let's see here. I got to make sure I feel like I'm at NASA or something with all these computers here. Yeah. Okay. Lori and Chad would need to be housed in general population if they were convicted. Eventually they were, if they were convicted. Let's see how. Let's see. How does a defense attorney hold a murderer's confessions confidential? In case I wasn't speaking into the mic, question is, how does a defense attorney hold a murder confession confidential? It's easy. You just don't tell anyone. You take it to the grave. Okay? Had situations where People have told me things that they've done. I can't tell anybody about it. Bottom line, and some of it's kind of, you as an attorney have strict confidentiality. All right. Just like you do with your doctor, right? You have privacy laws with your doctor. Why do you have that confidentiality? So that you can receive the best advice possible, because you're able to tell your attorney all of the facts. Just like when you talk to your doctor, you can tell him, hey, I've been following your diet, or no, you're not, or you're doing something you're really not supposed to be doing. But that's so that you get the best treatment you can, and you won't share it with anybody else unless you give him permission. Same thing for attorneys. You can't reveal things without clients' permission. And I've had many clients over the years that have charged with something, and they're like, wow, that really felt great. Let me tell you something else. And they tell me. And I'm like, you need to not tell anyone else that, because if you do, you're going to get in big trouble. So that's the attorney-client privilege. That's why you hire an attorney. That's why attorney and counselor at law. Some days I feel like a counselor. I feel like a life coach. Yes, we tell about the law. We tell people, you can get past this. This is not the end of the world. It was a bad mistake. You're not a bad person. You can do these kinds of things. But also, it's the kind of thing where, sometimes people need to get stuff off their chest that they feel guilty about. It's almost like a confession, same thing with a priest. You go to a priest, you tell them you do bad things. They're not supposed to tell anybody. All right. So that's how you do it. And if you can't do it, and understand that's not just for criminal defense attorneys. What if you're a corporate lawyer and your client comes to you and says, hey, I just committed insider trading, made a ton of money. Nobody's going to know. You as the attorney cannot tell anybody, unless you're maybe general counsel and you're required under the law to do so. But for the most part, it's attorney-client privilege. You can't tell anyone. So it's not just criminal defense attorneys that have to deal with these type of issues. Scott, when do you think the indictment will be unsealed? Not sure which indictment you're referring to there. But we'll see. Obviously, if we're talking about the Chad Daybell matter, then or Lori Vallow, I'm not aware of any indictment. Grand jury may very well be meeting, but as of right now, there's nothing there. These children disappeared in September of last year, and here we are in June, right? 9-10 months. There's no statute of limitations on. There's no statute of limitations on murder. So they could be charged at any time. It could, we hear about these cases all the time. I just was reading about a case here in Colorado. It was 40 years later that the DNA came back and they ultimately knew who to charge. So it, really it just depends on when they have enough information. It's got to be, like I said, legal and competent evidence. It can't be speculation, hunch, theories, anything along those lines. It has to be evidence that's admissible under the rules of evidence. Let's see. Scott, have you ever defended someone you regretted defending? Sure. But let me tell you why. And it's not because, I think, I've had clients that have done things that maybe involved deceased bodies, win, and then the client comes back and we win again. I don't have regrets about that at all, because the people, prosecutor didn't prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. Okay. What irritates me is you bust your butt for a client. They know that you're doing the best job that you can for them. And it's just what you do. When you're in a business that involves high stakes, where people's liberty for the rest of their life is at stake, you know that if you lose, eventually they're going to come back and try to say you did something wrong. And that's the part that just, frustrates me. And it's usually the clients that you just put your heart and soul into a case. You know, you live and die sometimes by cases, and you lose. You're like, man, it was a close one, and we lost. Didn't think we should have lost. And, you know, they go through the appeals, and then their next step is to say, oh, you were a crummy attorney. You were ineffective. And you know you weren't ineffective. You did everything you could. Those are the ones that you regret, because it's like you give it your all. You do everything you can for a client. And, you know, people don't, you know, sometimes people like, oh, attorneys don't care. They're just about it for the money. No, I have to tell clients all the time, listen, I'm giving you the best advice that I have. All right. Just like I would give to my own children. And why would I give bad advice to my children? I wouldn't do it. Why would I give bad advice to a client? I have to tell the client the good, the bad, and the ugly about their case. Good facts. Boy, you got a lot of really, really bad facts, and it's not looking good. I have to tell them that. And sometimes my deal is I have to tell them, you got to take a deal, and it sucks. But the alternative is a heck of a lot worse. You know, the goal is you get sunshine. There's light at the end of the tunnel versus potentially being in there for the rest of your life, never getting out, particularly if you're a young kid. You know, I remember having a young kid as a client, and, you know, dumb, nice kid, but just knucklehead stuff. You just want to say, what were you thinking, right? And you got to go to him and say, you know, listen, we go to trial and we lose, you're going to spend the rest of your life in prison. And then you have to go tell a kid, hey, they made you an offer. It's a good offer. It's 60 years. You know, telling an 18, 19, 20-year-old kid, you have to go to prison for 60 years, 3 times longer than they've probably been alive. You know, then they just lose hope. Like, oh my gosh, well, I'm going to go to prison for 60 years, might as well be alive. You know, that's what we refer to as felony math. You know, 60 is too much, but life is okay. And so you have to really try to, you know, convince them that that's what, you know, it's the best thing. And sometimes it's hard, and sometimes they follow your advice, and sometimes they don't. And if you lose, and, you know, they say, man, that 60 years sure looks good right about now, because I'd be getting out. And in most jurisdictions, you know, if you got a 60-year sentence, you're not doing 60 years. You're probably eligible at 40, 30, do good, don't get in any trouble. You never know. It all kind of works out. But let's see here. Rosa. How do you sleep at night knowing someone murdered a child or something, and they are crazy as heck, and now they are free? Good Lordy. Gee, like I've never answered that question before, but thank you. I mean, appreciate it. I get it. People ask, how can you defend innocent people? How do you defend guilty people? Okay. The guilty people are, I mean, it's always difficult, but it's easier. It's the ones that are truly, truly innocent that keep you up at night, that really make you sweat. Okay. You know, if the guy confessed, it's on video, you know, and he wants to go to trial, okay, you know, not going to look good. We can do that. Let's try to get a good deal. But like I said, you know, Rosa, you know, the burden is always on the government. The defendant never has to prove himself innocent. And so if the prosecution fails to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt to each and every element of the offense charged, it is the juror's oath and obligation to say not guilty. That is what takes place in courtrooms all over America every day. Jurors say not guilty. It's not the defense attorney. Remember, the defense can only use what is legally permissible evidence. So everyone's playing within the same rules. And if you know the rules better, think about if you're playing football, soccer, anything along those lines, right? If you know the rules, you say, oh, you violated that rule, you win. Same thing. If you know the rules, how they're being played, if you're playing by the rules, I can sleep like a baby. A lot of people don't like that. I just always get asked that by my ex-mother-in-law. How can you do that? Wouldn't you like to be a judge someday? Oh, no, 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 no. I'm not sure what that means. I'm sorry. Let's see here. Sherry, the only thing that makes, let's say, thank you. Let's see. Join us. Okay, let's see here. Time you don't deserve a heavy sentence and get people like, it's going by so fast. How do you do that? Let's see. Okay, I'm a lawyer. Okay, let's see here. This is the question. Oh, let me go back. It's a super chat too. NZ, Kate. I'm a lawyer, 8 years here in New Zealand. I struggle sometimes with clients who have committed certain crimes, especially against children. I've been thinking about moving to the prosecution. Kate W. from New Zealand. I think you need to do what you think is the appropriate thing for you. Everybody needs to be able to, for lack of a better term, be able to go home and sleep at night. And, but you have to remember, as an attorney, you're protecting not only the rights of the defendant that's there, you're protecting those rights so that even the guilty ones, you're protecting the rights so that the government doesn't railroad guilty people down the road. And understand, when you are representing individuals who have done terrible, heinous things, and if you, Kate W., are a defense attorney there, certainly you've probably seen terrible things. And you just think sometimes these individuals have no redeeming quality whatsoever. But as a defense attorney, you're not condoning what your client has been accused of. I'd say 99.9% of the time, you're not going to condone what they did. Or if you had been able to counsel them beforehand, you'd say, don't do that. But you're protecting their rights. You're not defending what they did, except maybe a self-defense thing. But even then, that's under the law. And you know, as well as I do as an attorney, you have to be able to argue the law. And sometimes you don't like clients. I mean, I've had lots of clients over the years that I couldn't wait for their case to get over with. There's some clients that I really liked, and I literally tell them, I hope I never see you again, in the sense of an attorney-client relationship, because I want you to have a good, successful life. So, Kate, you got to do what you need to do. If it means moving to the prosecution side, so be it. Nobody likes crimes against children. I mean, nobody does. Children are the most defenseless individuals out there. And, some of the things that people do to them, I mean, it's shocking. And, you may not like it, but you're defending those individuals, their rights. So hope that answers questions there, Kate. Innocent people paid with their lives. Yeah, there's a lot, the Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell case is simply crazy in the sense that there's literally so many people that, died around people. Maybe it's just all coincidence. We'll have to wait and see. Let's see. Why do you think Tylee testified in Alex Cox's favor, saying it was self-defense when he killed Charles? Not even going there. No one's even going to be prosecuted on that particular case. Let's see here. Karina, thank you. I would love to sit and listen to your stories all day. Thank you for all this. Like I said, that's what, we started this channel, is really to help people explain to them and understand the legal process, because it just drove me nuts when I watched the evening news and some reporter who doesn't know the difference between a pretrial conference, an arraignment, or a preliminary hearing is giving advice on what they think is going to happen. And it simply was wrong. And so we want to be able to explain it and explain the legal process and the legal rules that come into play here. And hopefully we do that. We'd like to think that because our channel has had such success, and we thank each and every one of you, it wouldn't have been possible at all. Okay, Becky, super chat here. Scott, love the live chat. Thank you very much. Will the public find out what was in Chad's sealed affidavit? I'm not clear even why it was sealed. Yes, it will ultimately be unsealed and the public will have access to the affidavit for the arrest warrant, as well as the affidavit for the search warrants of the property. So we'll know what took place. The reason why the prosecution asked that it be sealed, but yet still turned over to his defense attorney, the attorney for Mr. Daybell, is that he obviously needs to know what evidence they have against him. He's not going to turn that over to anybody. But what is stated in the motions that they filed and the judge granted them was that there was an ongoing investigation, and release of that information could jeopardize the investigation. They tried to intimate that possibly it could put other people at risk or in danger. So the court will grant that. It's not indefinite. All right. We are the United States. We have a free and public court system, and it should be. And understand the court can make those limited exceptions, but eventually it's going to have to be unsealed so that people can do that, can see what's going on in there, because this is the United States of America. We don't do justice in the back room. It's a public courtroom. Court files should be open to the public, and they are in this particular case. They are in just about every case, unless it's involving minors and things like that. They're in juvenile cases. Sometimes they can be sealed or suppressed, but they have to have real good reason to do that. So eventually that will be turned over. And guess what? We'll know by July 1st and 2nd, because we're going to have the preliminary hearing. And the detective is going to get up there and outline what information they have, what they had, why there was no progress, and then changed. We're going to hear about all that information. It's going to be good. It's going to be really good. And then we'll have a better inclination as to who the prosecution thinks was involved. Clearly, the district attorney, through some of their filings and statements, believe that Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell have. And like I said, the question is, what evidence do they have to bring murder charges? We're going to have to wait and see for sure. All right. We have literally been going for just about an hour. It goes by so fast. Really, it does. And I apologize for that, literally, because I feel like I could sit here and answer questions all day long, because you all have such good questions. And, really, I wish I could literally just take each one at a time. But if you'd like for me to spend more time on your questions, you have to join Patreon. I think we have a link down below to the Patreon page. You can sign up. Frank's going to send out a email to the Patreon people with a link so that they can be live here shortly after. We'll take a quick comfort break, and then we will resume again on the Patreon page. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We do truly appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit that little bell so that you receive notifications. Want to give a big shout out to the lovely Miss Kristen, who just had a birthday yesterday. Thanks for all the good advice and everything that you do for me. I appreciate it. Does not go unnoticed. I assure you of that. It was a good birthday, I do believe. So thank you. We're going to jump over to the Patreon. And if you become a Crime Talk Patreon member, we'll continue this conversation. We'll talk about the Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell matter, or anything else you would like to talk about. So have a great day. And thank you so much for watching our live edition of Crime Talk this evening. We will see you tomorrow.